always local, just by having only locals recommending. Usually locals have higher standards, because they've lived somewhere. So if you think about it, if a local's a regular somewhere, that place has to have something good to offer.
Hi, everyone. So welcome back. So today we have something really special. And in fact, I'm really excited to really know much more about this, being a foodie myself. So today we have the co-founders of LocalMeal, Derin, Isabella, as well as Noah. So they're all students of UCL, and I came across LocalMeal by chance, and that really immediately got my attention, being a foodie myself. So without further ado, let's jump straight to it. So first and foremost, how are y'all? How are y'all keeping? And how's life? And let's get straight to it. Let's start with you, Derin.
I mean, life is great. It's like I wouldn't expect it to be like this, to be honest. Like after LocalMeal, I feel like right now, like my priorities shifted a lot. And now I feel like, since like we're also studying at the same time, like with LocalMeal, I feel like I'm learning so much more, and it's like my core focus right now, being in London and everything. It almost feels like it was for this than for the actual education stuff. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to like degrade the education in UCL. It like helped us a lot and everything, but it's like very different and exciting. I'm enjoying the process a lot, like, and
Amazing.
like, so it's been going great.
That's great to hear. In fact, like I had a similar, somewhat like another colleague of mine, Sophia, who also founded her startup as well while in university, said something similar. Let's jump into that a bit later. But yeah, I really resonate with that. How about you, Noah?
Really good. It's pretty stressful right now because basically, like you want to focus on the startup, but you still kind of need to do the university stuff. So now we're last week we had our last lectures. So now it's basically working towards the exams, and at the same time LocalMeal is getting very close to the launch, so it's like all coming together a bit, which is a lot of work, but basically university work is something I enjoy, but like not as much obviously as LocalMeal, where you work on something that's like you're passionate about. It's our idea, like we want it to work. This could be like something we do for a longer period of time. So yeah, it's exciting times, a lot of work, but yeah, that's what we chose.
That's great to hear. And how about you, Isabella?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of echo what both Noah and Derin said. Like, LocalMeal has kind of made our year a different story, like it's added this additional layer that it's been an experience that has been really, I think, meaningful to all of us, and whatever happens next, I don't think any of us are going to regret having chosen to do this. And yeah, like as Noah said, it's kind of an interesting story we have, because being a full-time student and running a startup, usually you hear people who decide to do a startup, they go really all in, and we've had to like juggle our time. But it's been a great experience, so I think we're going to be happy to talk about it today.
Yeah, like we could really perhaps look forward to this, like in a few years' time, to see really how LocalMeal, and in fact, these few years really shaped how LocalMeal is going to be in the future. So I'm really looking forward to it as well, and all the very best. So before we really jump into it, I also feel this is a good opportunity to really reflect on how what is kind of expected in university is also different. Maybe a few years ago, people used to come into university expecting to get an education and move out, whereas now people expecting much more out of it, to meet potentially their co-founders, as in this case. And essentially, it's like an incubation center to meet some of the best minds across the world. And for example, come up with something like LocalMeal. So first and foremost, kudos on that, because that doesn't really happen for everyone. So I think it's amazing that the fact that you all found something that you all really resonate with and jumped into it straight away. So that's an amazing start right there. And I feel that in a way, a lot of institutions do provide that opportunity in a sense, either through networking or classes or just hanging around the right people. So I think that's a good way to see how the world is shifting into not just academics per se, but rather the entire bigger picture.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, especially, I think it's also about seizing the opportunity and like just taking action. Because personally, I think with LocalMeal, it was like everything just came together with like us just like being like, okay, let's just like start doing this and see where it goes. Because I mean, LocalMeal initially started off as I don't know if you know, but it used to be a like UCL project that all three of us were doing, like for academics and for the grade, basically. So we all take the entrepreneurship minor, and for our final assignment, we had to like come up with this startup idea where like we assess its like early stage opportunity whatsoever. And I remember like because since it was COVID, I was back in Turkey, and Isabella and Noah were fortunate enough to be in London. And I remember Isabella called me one day because like we haven't even like talked about what we were gonna do. Because obviously like I was trying to catch up with school from Turkey. It's not the ideal situation.
Yeah.
I wasn't super into like, not in my best motivational place.
It was COVID. The world was upside down.
And like I remember Isabella called me one day and she was like, so we were walking at the park with Noah and we came up with this idea where like, what if like, you know how you don't get to see like discover local places that much, like what if we did something about that? And I was like, I mean, yeah, sure, why not? But like I was a bit, not gonna lie, I was a bit hesitant at first because I was like, isn't that like a really crowded space anyways? But like, I was like, okay, well, I mean, guess it's gonna be for a school project, so yeah, let's go with it and see where it goes. And then it just like transformed. Like
I think you brought us to a very nice place that they're in, and I think you kind of painted the background and the picture as well in that sense. So on that note, open to the three of you all, like, what is LocalMeal? This might be the first time some of us may have heard about it, and yeah, tell us what is LocalMeal and what is the problem that LocalMeal is looking to solve.
I think I can jump in with story, which is like the background story of LocalMeal. Noah and I, we took a trip to Portugal.
Nice.
To Lisbon, and we wanted to find a good, authentic Portuguese place for lunch. That was like the goal of the day. And we were searching on Google at first, and we were like, well, first of all, we didn't know anyone in Portugal to give us recommendations. So that was not going to happen. And then second thing was we're like searching on Google, and we just couldn't tell if these places were good or not. So we couldn't decide on a place just by internet search. So we're like, okay, Lisbon's pretty small. We know the area a bit. Let's just walk around. And then we're walking around, and it was impossible to decide on a place to sit down. We were like, okay, this is probably a tourist trap. This is a tourist. You know, there's people outside the restaurants like, come to our restaurant. We're like, no. And so basically, I think we must have been walking around for like 2 hours maybe.
Gosh, yeah.
And then we finally sat down at a place that was honestly probably empty. The waiters didn't speak any English. And for a very affordable price, maybe like €7, we had incredible fish, like probably the best fish we've ever had. And basically, when we were trying to find a problem for this assignment, because this assignment was like, don't start from an idea, start from a problem. So that was the whole
There you go.
Like, oh, when have we experienced something difficult? And then we're like, it was really difficult to find an authentic fish restaurant in Portugal. So that was basically the problem that we were like, okay, why is it so hard to find such a local, authentic place? You have to either walk around for hours or you have to Google search for a while. It's really hard to tell. So that was like the original problem. And then I don't know if either Noah or Derin want to take away kind of how we built on top of that.
Yeah, I think just simply afterwards, we try to make all these steps to make this whole process easier to find these local authentic restaurants. So what LocalMeal basically does is that there are no chains on the app. So basically, if a restaurant has 4 or 5 locations in a city, it will not be on the app. So basically, there's not going to be any Five Guys, Honest Burgers, or like anything you think about like that has multiple locations. And then the big thing is basically that only locals can recommend. So basically in the beginning, when you sign up to the app, you say where you're from, and then you're restricted to the area on where to recommend. So basically what other users then have is when they can see all the recommendations, those recommendations are more trustworthy because basically these come from the people that are from the place. So let's say, for example, in London, only Londoners are able to recommend. So if people are coming from abroad and want to find the places Londoners love to go to, they can find them on LocalMeal. And then we have like all this additional stuff just to make this process much more easier. So basically we have lists for specific occasions, which is similar to what Spotify is doing with playlists and music. We want to do that with restaurants and occasions. So basically, if you want to find restaurants for rooftops, restaurants for date night.
Nice.
So basically, just make the whole process easier and like more curated. So that basically when you have your phone in hand, you don't need 2 hours to find a restaurant like Isabella and I did in Portugal, but you do it in 10 minutes. And then what we found is that the most important component in finding a restaurant, like what most people use, is basically word of mouth. Basically asking my friends and family, okay, have you found any cool restaurants in this area? I'm looking for an Asian restaurant or whatever. And basically we found that this word of mouth component is so important that we also want to implement like a community feature where people can share their favorite restaurants with their friends. They can follow friends, can follow influencers that they trust. And it's basically then all in the name of regaining the trust for the user, that he knows, okay, basically I can trust this recommendation because he's a local, he's maybe a friend, he's an influencer that I trust. And this is basically LocalMeal version 1 in the beginning. And then what we want to do at a later stage is to also add a personalization aspect to it. So even make this whole process more tailored to the user itself. So basically like what Spotify is doing with your weekly mix with new songs that suit your taste. Basically, you're going to get restaurants that suit your taste. And so that you can always try out new restaurants and new things, even in your local area and abroad.
Nice. I think we touched on several really important points there. And when you were talking about how, Isabella, when you're talking about how we didn't have someone to talk to, I think that is a problem we all have. Now, especially if you're in a new city, that's the go-to first option. And in fact, like I live in Colombo, like in Sri Lanka. So even though I've been living in Colombo most or if not all of my life, I still call my brother's my go-to in terms of where is the best place to go out. So I think that's something that each of us always look forward to as the first option. So in that sense, y'all nailed it there. And secondly, the fact that how y'all mentioned as to how giving the power back to the community rather than it being really tailored and really looking very polished, restaurant-y, touristy. Because yes, that's a separate market altogether. But on the same note, we all like to live like a local, quote unquote. And that's where the real hidden gems are, so to speak. So that's something really exciting to see. And it's really nice to see how that y'all are really LocalMeal is really putting this together. And I like your analogy, on how you use Spotify as an example, because the type of music each I mean, the four of us here listen to is completely different. Or maybe, of course, there may be similarities. There may be dishes that we all like, but that mix, so to speak, may be different. And certainly that personalization element added onto this would be like, I think that's like amazing right there. So in terms of what you just described and how it's structured, I think it sounds amazing, and I'm really looking forward to it. But on the same note, I think how you all started itself speaks volumes, because especially in the entrepreneurship space, you get a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs who come up with the tech and then see, okay, how could this tech be used to spin out a company, rather than starting with the problem and then developing the tech or whatever it may be to address the problem. So that foundation, I think, is here very strong and something universal, regardless of the country, the geographical background, culture, because that's something everyone really looks forward to. So really exciting stuff, to be honest. And I think I'm like sort of getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But yeah, really exciting stuff there, and it's really, in a way, a bit also inspiring to all aspiring entrepreneurs out there as to how, by starting with the problem, things become clearer when you dive into the problem. So amazing stuff there.
Yeah, I think that's very important to start with the problem, because basically what we did in the beginning was like just started with like a ton of market research about like understanding what the problem is before actually building the solution. Because if you kind of just have an idea, just make it, and like you don't solve a problem, basically there's a high risk of no one wanting to use it and no one
Exactly.
Okay, why do I need this? So yeah, that's the whole process with starting with the problem. And like we haven't launched it yet, so we're not 100% certain if the problem is solved as we want to solve it. But I think we did all the right steps to make this possible.
And like to add on to what you just said, since like we, like as you said, we spend a lot of time, like we're talking about like 4 or 5 months, just like interviewing people, trying to gather as much data as possible. And even in that process, the idea itself like came a long way. Like we discovered a lot of new things, and like along the journey, we also, I think, kind of realized it's not even like why. So I mean, at this part, we've already seen this like increasing traction towards like eating local, dining out like local. People want to like have feel the authenticity of a place. They want to get away from the chains, because it's not like, obviously the food plays a huge role, but it's also not just about the food, but the experiences we share around those local places too.
Exactly.
Like those meaningful and memorable experiences, like we've all realized actually, like, I don't know how to even explain, but like drive from like even like having a conversation with the owner, or like just like feeling the vibes of the place, seeing other locals come there, or like having that
the ambience around the place
at your local coffee shop. Just like the feeling of the place kind of like adds on to the whole experience. And that like, so that's what we've realized along the journey, and that's actually why people are like switching towards to more local places. That's why that whole discovering like why, like the whole discovering the problem itself. Like, what was the quote, Isabella? You know the quote of the design process.
Fall in love with the problem, not the solution.
That's what we did, honestly.
Yeah, we did. And I think that's honestly what has kept us going. Yeah. Like, I think I'm speaking for all of us when I say what's kept us going is we've consistently had, we've started talking about LocalMeal quite a bit in our community, and quite regularly people will come to us and be like, guys, I was trying to look for a restaurant and local meal has to exist. Like it was really hard to find a place. Like my mom is just visiting London and she was like, yeah, I don't know where to go.
Build this thing faster.
Yeah. So it's definitely one thing that motivates all of us, I think, is having that problem as a backbone.
Yeah. And
Nice.
it's still something that we're trying to solve. Like we're always like in the mindset of like, even with this beta that's hopefully going to be launched in a few weeks, like we're always trying to like discover, okay, so like what type of insight can we get out from this so that we can like build up constantly, because like we know the problem we're trying to solve is like to be able to like discover these authentic small places with like without any resistance through like navigation, like without the haste and everything. So like within each step we're constantly reiterating like what we're doing and trying to like just like the whole purpose is like to solve like this problem basically.
Yeah, I think right there, the importance you all place in terms of understanding the problem, and in fact, even taking a step further to do market research, I think that's something that everyone could really take a leaf from. I'm not sure whether you all heard about the problem of like how Dropbox started. So it's basically how I can't remember the owner's name. He was going on a road trip and forgot the USB that carried like his work. And there you go. That's the problem. Like people used to store data on USBs, and all of a sudden now he basically created Dropbox based on that problem. And yeah, now we are in like 2022, and then everyone stores their stuff in the cloud mostly. So I think that itself speaks volumes of how by understanding the problem, you can really understand the ideal solution that can be built to address a specific problem, rather than designing a solution and then finding what's the problem it can address.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one knows the problem I broke USB once.
What? Yeah, I've deleted a lot of stuff. Lost my laptop a few weeks ago. I should have the cloud.
So on that note, let me just take a quick segue to ask you all this question. What could potential like folks looking for this type of solution expect from LocalMeal once it is launched? As a user, what could I expect from LocalMeal? As, let's say, as the general user, as well as, of course, as a foodie as well.
I think I can touch on that. So basically what you're going to get is a very curated experience where you find the restaurants in a very quick and like easy way. So basically our community aspect, which you touched upon earlier. So basically what we're trying to do is to imitate what Instagram is, for example, doing. That do really well, like promoting restaurants, food blogs, and stuff like that. But basically, Instagram isn't made for restaurant discovery. So our goal in mind with LocalMeal is basically to make every process more easily navigable. So basically, it's only going to be for restaurants. You can always search. If you're going to on someone else's page, okay, I want to see what their favorite pizza place is. Then you can go onto their profile and actually see only the pizza places that they go to. And just about like, in general, LocalMeal is pretty like what we want to have is easy to use for the user, easy to understand, and just like quickly find the right restaurant for the right occasion.
So in a way, really a curated feed or Instagram sort of version to help people find the best places that they want to dine based on the experience they're looking for.
Yeah. And always local.
Always local. I can quote that.
I mean, it's really built to discover these, what we call the hidden gems, you know, just by having only locals recommending. Usually locals have higher standards, you know, because they've lived somewhere. So they don't really like their favorite places. They usually don't settle for. They're usually the highest quality places. If you think about it, if a local is a regular somewhere, that place has to have something good to offer. And yeah, you know, chains like anybody can really find. We're not saying chains are bad or that they taste bad. It's just that those aren't the ones that are really difficult to find. So we really kind of like.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like no one's gonna search for MACD, is it?
Yeah.
Like, there you go. So on that note, maybe again slightly switching hands here. How would you advise in terms of other like potential startups, entrepreneurs out there? Now I understand that you all have a great chemistry here just by talking to you all here, and I of course met you all the other day as well. How would you all advise other aspiring entrepreneurs out there in terms of finding their co-founders? And of course, now co-founders itself could be a separate conversation by itself. But in terms of finding that nice balance of technical as well as non-technical founders, and of course, in that chemistry itself, what are your thoughts on that?
I would say what makes the three of us work is that, yes, we're great friends, all of us. So we were already close before we started. But I think the reason why we all work is two things, actually. First of all, I think each of us do have like the same high standard for our work. So usually, and then because we do, all of us are very open with giving feedback. So we all have this kind of like matching standard. And then we are constantly okay with giving each other and receiving feedback, and no one takes it personally. So
I'm number one thing as well.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, every day we work together, and like every day there's little things that we disagree with, and that's just the way it's going to be, you know? So I feel like if you don't have that baseline, then it's challenging.
Yeah, it's pretty important, like being open to criticism and like trying to like you always have to have an open mind, because in the end you want the best thing for your business. So you always have to kind of make the decisions that make the most sense to most people, because basically the app, it's not going to be only you that's going to use it, but you're going to try to get thousands of other people to use it. So basically what's important is to put your own assumptions on the side, listen to other people, listen to what they say, and then basically make your decisions from that point. So that's very important. And like, you don't need to have your pride in your own ideas in a way, because obviously it's important to have your own ideas and to stand for them. But basically, if you can see that other people disagree and think that this other way is better, then you should pursue it, because in the end you just have to do what makes most sense for the business and not what makes most sense for you personally.
Amazing stuff there. So I think being able to play the devil's advocate where necessary really makes a big difference. If I recall correct, Justin Khan said, like, especially when Twitch was founded, there was a lot of friction between the founders, because the fact that like they were, I think, arguing and being able to really call out things where it is not right really makes a big difference. And that's kind of why I guess Twitch sold for $1 billion or so, if I recall correct, back in the day. So I think really good point there. And it's amazing to know that understanding that you all have in terms of, okay, this is why we're not always on the same page, but in a way, we're not all expecting to be on the same page all the time, every time. And these differences is what kind of helps a LocalMeal go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, so on and so forth. So spot on there. Another question that I have in terms of LocalMeal and where you really expect to go is, what are some of the key lessons that you all have learned along the way, as well as what are the key pillars of support that you all have like received in a way from, say, friends, family, universities, so on and so forth. So perhaps let's start off with the lessons that you all have learned along the way.
I mean, for me, honestly, the number one thing, like when I think back about this whole journey, like I've said this before, but it's just like seizing the opportunity. Don't be scared of failing. Just like go on with it and see where it goes. And if you fail, you fail. Like that's okay as well. That's still a learning experience. And like just seizing the opportunity, I would say, because like have that gut instinct and just go with it.
There you go. I think
Because
so. Yeah, go ahead.
like you would rarely regret that. Like it's always you discover something.
Yeah, I think you learn so many lessons along the way. Like if we compare it to, we've been studying for 3 years, and then you start your own startup, and basically you learn so much in-depth information about like actually running a startup. There's so much more than just creating a product. There's stuff behind the scenes. We applied, for example, to the UCL incubator, which we got in, and you just learn so much stuff about like how a startup works. And just getting this background knowledge, and like not even background knowledge because we're running the startup. It's like you learn so much in the process of doing it. It's pretty crazy. It's like,
Then
I don't know,
on the go.
I've done internships, but like basically you've got your task and do these small bits. But if you're actually running a startup, you learn so much, from like financial modeling to actually building an app to UI UX design. There's so much stuff. It's crazy, and you broaden your skill sets in such a big way. It's pretty crazy, and like it's super interesting. And I feel like I learned so much from this experience that I could use this in so many other places. So like
There you go.
even if I want to go into a work environment later, like the experience I got from LocalMeal was super vital, and like I can't compare it to other things that I've done before, work experience wise, or even university wise, because you're so engaged into it and really learn so much with every day, new tasks, how to run it, everything. Super cool.
Definitely agree.
I think you all really complemented each other in a way, because, and like kind of building on your point there, Derin, you're not really failing, you're just learning different ways to do things. And like you said, throughout that entire experience, regardless of where LocalMeal goals, you're always going to be picking up skills that could be useful in any other endeavor across, like throughout your life. So big kudos on that. And you also touched on how I believe how the amount of support that you're receiving from UCL as well. So on that note, let me do a quick segue there to perhaps touch on some of the support that you all have received along the way, say from your friends, family, extended networks, universities, schools, so on and so forth. So how important is that, and what difference has that made in your journeys?
I think the biggest difference about support is it's just really like when you're doing a startup, it's all on you. And I feel like that's why, you know what I mean? Like we're not making any money. It's purely because we wanted to do it. You know, you don't have that other incentive. And so like support has been, I think, important just to sort of like always keep us on track. So for example, the incubator Noah mentioned, I think that was a big turning point for us, because when we got accepted, it was this sort of validation, like, okay, so maybe this idea could work, you know? And then at that point, we're like, okay, well, we got into the incubator, which provides us with so many opportunities. So we were like, okay, let's take the opportunity, you know, as Derin said. And I think, so there was that sort of support, which is more institutional at UCL. But then support from our friends and family, I think, has also been huge for us. We haven't been shy talking about LocalMeal. Like we've talked about it with pretty much everyone. And so, you know, it comes up quite a bit now. And I don't know about you guys, but like that's one of the biggest supports I have is like, I find that the UCL community is extremely supportive. Like they're not the type of people who don't like to see others succeed. You know how there are some cultures where people like they don't want to see other people's success. Here at UCL especially, you can see like people want to see local meals succeed, and so they're helping us out a lot, and it means a lot to us too.
Yeah, another interesting part is obviously how supportive the startup environment is. So if we talk to other founders, they're always happy to help, give tips, maybe even connect you to people that investors or stuff like that. So it's very like a very supportive environment what we found so far. And basically not being greedy about other people getting investment or stuff like that, but very much like helping them in the process. So yeah, a lot of support, and it's really cool to see. Like also what Isabella touched upon, it's just the motivation as well, like getting positive feedback.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was gonna say, when you see that much enthusiasm towards something, you also like start to think that, okay, like I also have to make this become something not just for myself, but like when you see that much of like the excitement around it, like you almost feel like, I wouldn't say like pressure in a bad way, but like you want it so much to actually become a reality, to be able to like give that to other people as well.
Yeah, people are cheering for you already.
We had a lot of times where we got stopped while walking around the campus, people saying like, oh yeah, I went to this place that I saw on LocalMeal. Like it just makes me so happy. Like
It's hard to describe. Yeah, I understand. Like, especially because when you know the type of impact that y'all are making in the people's lives. And of course, let's not forget the fact that in a way, by shedding the light on these like restaurants or hidden gems, as you described it earlier, we're also in a way helping that local community as well, aren't we? Because sometimes, of course, like some of these franchises get a lot of attention, but on the same note, these other restaurants, these local eateries are really getting a lot of attention as well through the process, as well as that entire process itself. So that's really amazing to hear as well. Anything else you all want to add on there, or could I jump into LocalMeal and what I understand that you all are looking to launch soon? So what are your thoughts on that?
So basically, it's been a long process since we began, so it's pretty exciting now that it gets to the like so close to launching. So the university project started like around a year ago almost, but so basically it got really serious and when we started going to the incubator at UCL, where we got all the advice on starting like making the startup, making it an official company, and everything. And so basically right now in the past, 6 months, it went really, really quickly from designing the app, doing all the background stuff, finding developers because we're not very talented in programming. So basically, we found a partner which we're partnering to develop the app, and basically now it's around 3 to 4 weeks ago to the launch of the beta. And it's really exciting. So we're only going to start with recommendations in London. Obviously, with a smaller budget, this is all we can manage right now. And basically from there, we try to expand. So our goal with the beta is really to get people to find LocalMeal, to see how useful it is, to grow it, to show the traction, and then grow from there. Hopefully raise some investment, and then for the next steps with the personalization algorithm, and then expand to other cities around Europe in the beginning, and then to further and beyond.
Nice. And one another question that I would have is like, yes, now we're talking about the launch, right? On the same note, let me ask this question. So what's the dream for LocalMeal?
the dream,
short term, long term, short term.
Yeah, what's the dream? I mean, if you could imagine LocalMeal in whatever place that as basically you can color it according to your imagination? How would you like to see local meal in the future?
I mean, my dream would be like local meal being this tool, like not just like not only just when you're in your neighborhood and when you're in your own city, like obviously you have your go-to places in your neighborhood, but you also want to discover other places like in other neighborhoods. And in that sense, local meal also like is very helpful. But in my dreams, like I would see local meal as like this go-to tool, especially when you're like traveling around and like trying to find these like local hidden gems, and maybe like even like collaborating with tourist guides and everything, where like this whole restaurant space can be a lot of help. I mean, there are so many opportunities when you think about it. So yeah.
Yeah, I hope on my side, I hope basically that local meal becomes this one place that you look for if you look for a local authentic restaurant. If you travel somewhere, if you go somewhere, if you want to find something local, something new, something different than TripAdvisor or Yelp or Google Maps, that you're basically going to find it on local meal. And basically that in, let's say, 4 to 5 years, Google is going to be like, oh shit, they actually have a point. Maybe we should acquire them for like 500 million. And then yeah, and then Google buys the app.
Nice. How about you, Isabella?
I mean, I think the dream is like, as we were all touching upon, the local community can provide such meaningful experiences. I mean, it would make me so happy if one of these local restaurants really starts thriving thanks to local meal. Like just by doing that, that would make me happy, you know, because, you know, some places don't have trouble getting footfall, but the ones that are a bit kind of on the side or hidden, those are like sometimes really tough to attract customers. So I don't know, it's maybe like a small dream, but if we could somehow really see a difference, that we made a difference for those restaurants and just
communities.
Yeah, just those special experiences, you know, like we know how it feels when you sit down at a restaurant that maybe you didn't think would be so good, but turned out to be amazing and the owner was so nice. Like those experiences really make your day or your trip if you traveled somewhere. So like as Noah and Derin said, if we can be that go-to app for those places, I think that's just, what we're trying
to do. That's really nice to hear. So an app on everyone's phone in a few years' time, as well as an app that really helps to change the lives in local communities. I think that sounds pretty nice.
Yeah. Also, guys, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I before this question I got a bit distracted because I just received the email notification. There was this competition that we applied to and we got into semifinals.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Players?
Yeah. Literally, I just saw that and like I got really distracted.
Why are you laughing? I was like, what is she?
I was laughing at that. I was just reading the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So we apply as basically mayor's competition is like
the mayor of London thing, right?
Yeah.
So basically,
congratulations. Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Yeah. So the cool thing about, so basically you can apply to like different categories, and one of them is like, what is it called? Lifestyle? No, it's not lifestyle.
No, it was creative industry.
Creative industry, basically to support the high streets in London and everything. And I think Local Meal is really a great app to like support those local businesses on high streets and stuff like that. So that's a very positive sign. That's
nice.
Good response.
All the best for that as well. I'm rooting for you from here.
Thank you.
And on that note, I think now this just made things a lot more exciting as well. and also to the fact that I think you mentioned earlier, Noah, on how this also in a way validates your idea as well.
Mm-hmm.
the fact that, okay, when you said on how when the incubator realized the potential, that really opened a lot of doors. And likewise, I believe hopefully this should open a lot more doors as well, not just in UCL, but across London as well. So all the best for that as well. I mean, like seriously, all the best for that, because certainly pitching in those type of competitions really gives an opportunity for a lot of different potential investors, well-wishers, backers, people who could help you all, mentors, so on and so forth, to extend that arm to LocalMeal and help you all in different ways that maybe perhaps you all never really thought about. So all the best for that, like seriously.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And on that note, say that you all are to write a letter to yourselves, except yourselves except say one letter to your 16-year-old self, one letter to the 25-year-old self, and another letter to the 35-year-old self. What would be in that letter,
Ooh.
given your current scenario?
What was it? What was the ages again? 16, 25, 35?
16, 25, 35, yeah.
That's a tricky one.
The 16-year-old me wouldn't listen to me anyway.
It's a good one.
But I'd say basically just enjoy your for the 16-year-olds, it's just about enjoying the experiences, finishing school well, go to university. Like, it was a great choice to go to UCL. Like, I'm from Austria, so basically the system in Austria is very different, where you're all on yourself. It's about you to make your decisions when, like, how you go to class, all these kinds of things. Like, it's not a very supportive educational academic system. So I think going just to the UK was a really good choice, and I would tell my 16-year-old self to do the same. 25-year-old self is probably stick to the things I'm passionate about. Obviously there's options out there to go into big corporate companies with like roles that don't really interest me, but that pay well. But in the end, just doing something like a startup is so much more rewarding in a way. And like, there's so many jobs in startup that you could do that are super interesting, dynamic work environments where every day you're doing something different. So I hope by 25, I'm still working in this space, and 35 is just enjoy life. Hopefully it all went well with LocalMeal and I'm sorted out. but probably 35 is then, yeah, stick to what I believe in right now, and yeah.
There you go. How about you, Derin?
Actually, I was literally thinking about really similar things. I would tell my 16-year-old self to don't be scared about going out of your comfort zone, because I was also like pretty hesitant with studying abroad. Actually, like coming to the UK and UCL was like a really, really last minute deal for me. Like, I literally had like no idea. Like, I just like went with it. I was like, we have this pretty big uni exam in Turkey, like where the whole like working towards that process takes about like your last 2 years of high school. So I was like fully dedicated on that, and I literally just applied UCL as like, I don't want to say it backup, just as like an assurance, where like, because I was gonna get the offer if I were to a bit earlier than the actual exam, so I thought I would be less stressed. But then like when it came, it was just like something way different. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like turn my back on this. So yeah, I would tell my 16-year-old self to like push yourself to get out of your comfort zone, because like honestly, to this day, it's still the best decision I've ever made in my entire life, coming to London and like studying abroad. 25-year-old self, yeah, I would also like say something about like sticking with what you love to do. Like the number one thing for me is always like happiness before all. So like if you're not enjoying the thing you're doing, then it's not going to be as rewarding, whatever you do, even though it's about like money or something else. So I would like tell myself to just like stick to what you love doing, because like happiness and mental health before all. I'm very keen on that. And 35-year-old self, yeah, I hope I'll be a millionaire by then. Let's see. I don't have anything to say.
I thought
Nice.
it's like monetary values for you.
Yeah, happiness before all. Yeah, as I said. I hope
Nice.
5-year-old me is like all settled, just like, knows everything. And I know 35-year-old me hopefully doesn't need me to like send a letter.
Nice.
That's a
I
good
think
one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And how about you, Isabella?
Let's see, 16-year-old self. Yeah, I think I would tell myself like you're gonna figure it out and you're gonna be good, because I don't know, like, and that I'm gonna grow and but it's like, your 16-year-old self can't see it, but if I could tell my 16-year-old self what I would have been doing, I wouldn't believe it, like I never really saw myself as much of like too much of a go-getter leader. So I guess that's something I would say, like, you're just going to learn a lot and grow a lot. And then 25, honestly, I'm on the exact same page as Noah and Derin for that one. Just like keep doing your thing and what you like to do, because I genuinely believe that pays off. Like even for me, choosing to come to UCL. So I'm from the US, and nobody goes to the UK to study, because over there, everyone's sort of like brainwashed almost that you have to stay in the US. And so that was already like a move that was very sort of out of the ordinary. Like I chose to do my own thing, and that paid off. So I just think like if you keep doing things that you want to do really, and not because other people are telling you to do it, that's going to pay off. And I think that's the same like when I'm 25. And then 35, yeah, I think it kind of reaches the point. 35, that's like over 10 years. And I think by then I want to be, yes, working on something I love, but also really enjoying myself and like taking it easy as well. I know 35 is still young. I'm sounding like that's like a retired life, but I do want to kind of take care of myself. And yeah.
I think we each of you all summed it up very nicely. And it reminds me of a quote I think Tony Robbins said: people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 5 or 10 years. So I see like there's a lot, 35 is a long way from here, but certainly there's a lot that can be done along the way. So all the best for LocalMeal firstly, and all the best to each of you all as well. So on that note, what are your closing remarks that you'll have, or be it, say, advice to all potential entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs out there? What are your closing remarks? So perhaps maybe let's start with you, Derin.
I mean, then I'm gonna have to say something different than the just motto for sure. I'll say wait, let me think about this a bit.
Okay, maybe let's go to Noah and then we'll come back.
Okay, what's my advice? Yeah, it tackles a bit the stuff that we talked about before. It's basically about solving a problem that actually is a problem. If you solve something that no one cares about, even if it's a great product, like you're not going to make any money from it. And then it's also about like doing something you're passionate about. Like you can choose something, I don't know, NFTs, even if if you're not interested in NFTs, and just do it for the money. After some time, maybe the product is not going to be as good. And I think for us, like we're passionate about the local dining industry. We're passionate about restaurants, and I think that transmits also into our company, into LocalMeal. So I think that's important. And yeah, and then obviously, like if you solve a problem, you're already in a good state. and because then people will want to use it. And then obviously there's the monetary side to everything. If your company doesn't make any money, then and you have expenses, then obviously it's not the way to pursue. But like it's a long-term thing in any way. So basically, LocalMeal in the beginning is going to be free to everyone. So obviously we're thinking ahead of monetary of revenue streams. So, but it's a long-term process, and basically start off by getting the user there, and then think maybe of finding a way how to monetize it.
Yeah, nice, sweet. I think you summed it up quite nicely there. How about you, Isabella?
Advice. I would say also, like probably people have gotten this advice before, but I'm just going to reiterate how important it is to talk to people around you. Whether we're talking to our friends, just spreading the idea, because it's all word of mouth really is what we're relying on. And the help we've received, just random connections happen, and you have to give yourself those chances. And you can only give yourself those chances if you really, like LocalMeal for us changed when we created our website, social media, started being very vocal, and just putting ourselves out there. And like no one's gonna think you look stupid or whatever. Like actually people think it's really cool. So
I certainly do.
Agree. Okay. I would actually say, I'm gonna say something that combines like what I've said before and this new thing. I would say don't underestimate yourself, but also be realistic. So like just don't underestimate your abilities, but also in a way that, like, as Noah said, put your assumptions to the side. It's like, it's not always like, because when you find an idea and like, obviously it's going to resonate very much with you, but it might not with everyone else. So again, this also actually combines both what Isabella and Noah said, like put your assumptions aside, but listen to people, and like don't underestimate your abilities, but be realistic. So that just sums up all.
There you go. I think together, I think we painted an amazing picture of what not just LocalMeal is aspiring to do where it is now, but also in terms of there's a lot of insight that, of course, aspiring entrepreneurs, be it in university or not, could take away as well from this. So thank you for your time there. I think we all shared a lot of your insight, and I really look forward to seeing LocalMeal to the moon in that sense, and all the best for the Mayor of London competition as well. And
Thank you.
all the best, and see you all around.
Thank you so much.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at @TryLocalMeal, and subscribe to the waitlist in our website.
There you go. So I'll put all the links in the description. So make sure to give that a like, follow, and subscribe, of course. So until next time. Yeah, go ahead, Derin.
I just said that would be amazing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.
Bye.